Hello, and welcome to Overreactive. I'm Dr. Rebecca Dunsmoor-su.
And I'm Dr. Amy Vodish, and we are your expert guides on the strange and often uncomfortable journey that is perimenopause.
Hi, everyone, and welcome back to Overreactive. I'm your host, Dr. Rebecca Dunsmoor-su.
And I'm Dr. Amy Vodish. And I am so excited, because it's just my tagline, but I am absolutely thrilled with our guest that we have here with us today. So we have my very dear friend, Dr. Jessica Healy. She was known as Dr. Jessica Alexander at the time when I met her. And we went to medical school together in the fantastic town of Rochester, Minnesota at the Mayo Clinic. And she very intelligently went into dermatology, whereas I did not.
Yeah,
So
me neither.
So Jess and I are both from the great state of Minnesota, and she also very wisely stayed in the great state of Minnesota. And I'm wearing my Minnesota I gotta move it. I'm wearing my Minnesota sweatshirt today just because, it's always good to be with my peoples. So I'm so excited you're here. She's going to go into all the do's and don'ts of what we're supposed to be doing with our skin right now. But before we get into all the nitty gritty about that, tell us about yourself and kind of where you're from. I know I already said that, but then what kind of dermatology do you practice and all the things?
Well, thank you so much for that fabulous introduction. I'm thrilled to be here. I've been listening to your podcast. I think it's wonderful. It's such a needed space right now. So thank you. I am a board certified dermatologist, and I am part of a private practice of dermatology in Minneapolis. And I see an array of patients, all ages, but I will say I definitely see a large number of perimenopausal women. And I get lots of questions about what we should be doing with our skin.
I can imagine. I know sometimes I get texts from Jess who's like, I got asked about this really weird thing. What do you think about that? So I'm like, yeah. It's so confusing because there are 1,000 different social media posts with 8,000 different products we're supposed to use. And we have this aging skin. And so it's are we aging because we're aging? Are we aging because it's perimenopause? And then if you're like Jess and I, we have tweens and teens. And so frankly, my daughters will bring me into Sephora and they'll be like, Mom, you just need to get this. I was like, I don't even know what is happening in this store. What is going on?
It's so overwhelming. I mean, you walk down these aisles, and I am in this arena on a day-to-day basis, and I find it overwhelming. There's hundreds of new products that are coming to market every year. And I wish we could test them all and see how they work, but it's just not possible. So what I thought we would do today is I will give a rundown of great active ingredients that we should be looking for in our products. Because like I said, I wish we could test them all, but we just can't. When you go and you're looking for things, these are the things to look for.
We've talked a little bit about this on the podcast, and we're going to dive deeper into it in a later episode. But, when we think about things like supplements, you can look at the back of the bottle and it will say this has these things in it in these amounts. But that's really in the supplement world dependent on them being honest. No one's checking. Is it pretty much the same with sort of skincare?
Similar, yes, because cosmeceuticals are not under the purview as much of FDA as well. Similar.
Okay. Oh. Is there an verification? So I know when I tell my patients to find a good magnesium, I say, look for one that has good manufacturing processes. So the GMP certification and maybe an independent verification. Do any cosmeceuticals have that?
They often will say maybe they're clinically tested, dermatologist tested. Clinically tested doesn't always mean a whole lot. Dermatologist tested means some derms have used it and they might have given some input onto it. One thing I would say is a lot of times if there is an active ingredient, they will list that on the back. If you flip the bottle over, it'll say under active ingredients, some of these things that we're going to be talking about. So they should have them listed. But yeah, it is kind of the Wild West out there a little bit.
Perimenopause is the Wild West. So all of it. Perfectly on brand.
Yep, that tracks with everything else we've talked about for the last X number of 12 episodes or whatever it's been. Yeah.
And then I have one more question before we dig into what might happen to our skin. How much of what might happen to our skin is genetics?
I think a lot of it. And so I think that we also have to go into this with a little bit of self compassion and just knowing, I mean, there are things we can change and there are things we cannot change. And aging is one of those things. I try to take the perspective that we're lucky we've gotten this far and we're lucky to get the wrinkles. We've made it
Yeah,
far in life.
absolutely. One of my favorite things to say to patients when they complain about aging is I say, but the alternative is worse.
Exactly. Right.
It goes along with the theme that we've talked about with these unrealistic expectations of how we are supposed to look and how we are supposed to age.
Mhm.
So, I mean, there's a reason why, these fillers and Botox, and I'm not saying anything that those are wrong or people shouldn't do them or whatever, but there's a reason why that's what, like $1 billion industry or whatever it is, right? Because people are chasing something, some unrealistic expectation of how we're supposed to look instead of, as you said, just having some compassion for just who we are and where we've been and how we got to where we are. I mean, these wrinkles, they tell a story.
Unfortunately, my wrinkles tell a story about growing up in Los Angeles in the 80s and mineral oil.
That's still a story.
It's still a story. It's still a story. Yeah. And I think Amy makes a really good point because we're told by social media and the media that we're supposed to be youthful forever.
Ugh.
And I like to remind people that I am not youthful forever because I do not have the budget for a personal chef and a personal trainer and a personal plastic surgeon.
Right.
Right. The
I'm going
nip
to
tuck.
age.
Right.
Yeah. So my husband, for those of you who don't know, is Persian. And Persian women are stunning. Like
They are pretty stunning, actually.
they're just beautiful. Hands down, across the board.
Great skin too.
Yeah. Oh,
Great skin.
fabulous skin. Love the skincare products. They take great care of themselves. I mean, and I said to him before we got married, I just need you to understand that I am not going to age like that I am not going to look like your mother looks because she looks like she's about 30 and I'm 30 and I look older than her. So, and I was like, that's the genetics. I'm hoping that that's the gene, like that's the genetic line from a skin perspective that my daughter's inherited and not this like hot mess. I don't even know. I don't even know what's going on here. It's not
I
good.
have a very similar story. My husband is Asian,
Ugh,
Taiwanese.
right?
I mean, his mother probably looks 20 or 30 years younger than she is. But more importantly, I am Greek, Polish, Scottish, and Irish, which means I come from a long and proud line of barrel shaped, mustachioed women. And there's no hope for me.
No.
Acceptance is part of it.
This is as good as it's going to get, people.
Yeah.
And we all need to be excited about that.
All right, we should probably do something useful with this podcast now.
Okay, right. Okay. So this is awesome. So we're going to go through sort of a list of like the top, I don't know, whatever, 8 things that are trending on social media right now. And that my tween and teen daughter's like, oh my God, mom, you have to be using this. I don't even know what these things are. So let's start with the obvious, like the first line thing that we're supposed to do for our skincare is sunscreen.
Right. It should not come as a shocker that the dermatologist is going to now tell you how important sunscreen is, but it really is. So about 80% of our skin facial aging, they attribute to photo damage. So, I mean, and that is one thing we have some control of. So of course, I'm going to say sunscreen number 1. And I mean, the good news, there has been a plethora of products that have come to market in the last decade. But good news, lots of new sunscreen products. And people always ask me, well, what sunscreen should I use? And my best advice is use the one that you like to use. So you're going to use it. I don't know if I'd say there's a best sunscreen. It's the one that you're going to reliably go back to and use every day. All of the ones on the market these days really are a broad spectrum, meaning they've got the ultraviolet A and B coverage, and they're going to be SPF 30 or higher. So no brainer, get the sunscreen on.
Is SPF 30 enough? Because there's 30, there's 50, there's 100.
Right.
So for my face, I'm usually doing because that tends to be a little easier to put on, like something that's like a 30 to 40, because it tends to be like a little more liquidy or easier to put on. But then when I'm because of my
Your heritage?
my heritage, I'm like spraying like 100 on.
So, I mean, really, the difference between an SPF 30, when you bump up to an SPF 50, you're only getting a few percent more protection. So, but we think of it this way: as humans, we're probably not applying sunscreen correctly. We're not always putting enough on, and we're not reapplying it as often as we should. So I think of it as, yes, if you're going to be out in the sun, out in the water, et cetera, water resistant ones for sure. But maybe, yeah, bumping it up to the 50 might make up for human error a little bit.
It's like she knows us, Amy.
Yeah, I'm with you there. So, but yes, I think, for day to day use, your 30 is fine.
Okay. So when your kids go to the beach, are they in like a sunscreen like tent around them, like as the dermatologist children, or
In my case, no. They have gotten burned here and there. I'm ashamed to admit it, but it happens. So again, we're human. It happens. I do the best I can, but sometimes we just didn't towel off enough and reapply. So I understand.
I have a question to add to that sunscreen conversation, which is I am someone who has incredibly sensitive skin. Like I am atopic dermatitis central.
Yeah,
You wave something with a fragrance by me and I'll break out in a rash. So I've moved to a lot of sun clothing when I'm at the beach. Does that work as well as sunscreen?
absolutely.
Okay.
And I mean, I think even a little better because, it's more reliable.
You can't forget to reapply it.
Yes.
My Victorian bathing costume.
Yes.
yes, in a Victorian bathing costume. I mean, seriously, and my kids are in it. Everybody's just, I'm like, put the sun shirt on. I don't want to deal because they don't want to put sunscreen on anyway.
Right.
So,
Right. It's
there
easy.
we go.
So again, this is another great advance in our society.
I
Yay.
love it. It's almost like a step back to the early 1900s, but in a better way. It's like vintage, but we're making it our own. So everything old is new again.
Exactly.
I do have a reminder to our happy listeners. Sunscreen is phenomenal for protecting your skin, both from the photo damage, but also, cancer. But it means you're not making vitamin D with your skin. So please be taking your vitamin D.
And especially for those of us in the northern latitudes that really see sun, for 6 months of the year. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
right. Minor detail.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm dying because that's really funny. I actually prescribed to someone the other day because they refused to take their vitamin D and their vitamin D level is so low that I said you need to go outside in a tank top and shorts for 15 minutes and expose your skin to some sun.
Yeah.
Like if you're not going to take it,
Right.
like this is what we're going to have to do because it was like crazy low. Like not like, oh, a little low, like, oh my God, that is not safe low.
5 to 10 minutes, even just the backs of the hands. That's usually, they say, enough to get to your adequate vitamin D.
If you're Caucasian.
Yes. And with lighter skin. Darker skin, you're not going to be absorbing that as much. So even more of an issue for the vitamin D deficiency.
Yeah, I could go out buck naked for like an hour here in Seattle right now
Yeah.
and get nothing. So,
Yeah.
Exactly.
As well in the tundra of Minnesota.
Yes,
Yeah.
exactly.
Okay. So moving on to our next thing. So sunscreen, great. Everybody needs to do it. SPF 30 at least, etc. So what about retinols? Because that's a hot topic.
There is strong evidence, good clinical studies that show that they do a number of things for the skin. So they decrease our wrinkles by stimulating collagen, which I think of as our building block of the skin, scaffolding, so to speak. They decrease hyperpigmentation, so sort of brown spots. They increase cell turnover, so it gets rid of all that dead skin that gets stuck on the skin that makes your complexion look dull. So we do have good evidence that these retinoids do very good things for the skin. They're vitamin A derivatives. And there are two different forms that we commonly think of. So retinol is the one that's over the counter. It's going to be in a lot of things that are advertised as anti-wrinkle products. So
Okay.
a lot of your creams, even if it says anti-wrinkle on it, you can sometimes flip over the back and it'll say retinol or some form of retinaldehyde. So definitely can be helpful, but that comes with a caveat. They can be very drying. And for people that do have sensitive skin, like eczema, rosacea, their skin may not be able to tolerate it. So
Okay.
oftentimes if people are starting off and have never used a retinoid, I have them start with an over-the-counter version of a retinol. Start like every other night with a moisturizer, either over it or even under it, because sometimes that will help to buffer the irritation to put moisturizer on first. If people tolerate it well and they want to move up to a prescription strength, that would be tretinoin, and they can get that from their doctor. So just a little bit more potent, so it can do a little bit more, but also potentially more irritating. Also, retinoids make you sun sensitive. So you
Mm.
have to just, again, back to the sunscreen. If you're using a retinoid, your skin is going to be a little more prone to sunburn than typical. So you have to be aware of that as well.
I have a feeling the end of every conversation we have is going to be, and then you need to put on sunscreen.
No, I am just like a broken record, Rebecca. True to form for dermatology.
Yeah.
So, will you get some benefit from the over the counter retinols and not the prescription strengths? I was like, do they just throw them in here, but they don't really do anything? Or is it like worthwhile to give it a try?
Yeah, there is evidence even the retinol, which is over the counter, can have positive effects on the skin.
Oh, okay.
But if your skin doesn't tolerate it, don't beat yourself up. It's okay. If you're someone you're like, I just get too red, dry, flaky, I just can't get over the hump with this, then there's other things. So, but I will say strong evidence that retinoids work.
Okay.
All
Okay.
right. Well, the next thing on our list of really hot topics is vitamin C.
Oh, yeah. My 12-year-old's like, Mom, what is wrong with you? You don't even have a vitamin C in here. And I was
I
like,
know.
why would I don't have a cold. Why am I putting that on my face? Like,
I
what's
thought that was
happening?
oranges.
I love that the 11 and 12-year-olds are using it, but
I mean, right? I was like, you have porcelain skin.
I know they're not trying to get rid of the brown spots like we are. But at any rate,
So is vitamin C helpful?
yeah. So also, I would say strong evidence from studies
Okay.
that it does help. So yeah, what are we doing? What is vitamin C doing? It's basically an antioxidant that goes in and gobbles up these things called free radicals, which are produced when ultraviolet rays or pollution hit our skin as get into our skin as toxins. These free radicals are produced and then they damage our skin cells. So vitamin C just goes in and clears those out. So it's protecting our skin. So you've got protection, yay. And then also, it's also helping with hyperpigmentation. So I find it a useful thing for women that are finding they're having some melasma or they're having brown spots.
Oh, yeah.
It also decreases wrinkles. So typically, you want to look for a product that's between 10 and 20%. Studies have shown as most efficacious. And typically, you want to see it packaged in an airtight and opaque bottle because it's very sensitive to destabilization. So when air gets in there or light, it's not going to work. So those are a couple things to look for with your vitamins. So, and they can sometimes be a little on the pricier side, but I think they're well worth it. Want to use them in the morning because in your skin, think of sun rays, pollution, and they also work synergistically with your sunscreen to help protect you. So I know. So I mean, your daughter is right.
Okay. It's just that the 11-year-old doesn't need it.
Exactly.
Okay, 10 to 20% airtight packaging in an opaque bottle. And it's worth it.
Yes.
Is it as irritating as like a retinol?
That's a great question. For some people, it can be a little irritating, not nearly to what a retinol typically is.
Okay.
But again, if it is, maybe a little thin layer of lotion on before you put your vitamin C. So, yes, I think you could still do fine and maybe stick with more the 10% end of the range than the 20%.
Okay. Let's see. What's next? Oh, niacinamide. What is that?
It's another vitamin, you guys. It's just so interesting. We're really drawing from vitamins. So, this is a B vitamin. And it's not something you're typically going to see sold alone. It's going to be an additive to probably one of your lotions or creams. Basically, it helps to decrease inflammation and redness. So, Rebecca, this might be along your lines. If you're more sensitive, this is a great additive. I think of it as good for calming the skin down. But there's evidence it also helps with wrinkles and excess pigment as well. But again, it's not going to be sold alone. It's usually in something else.
Okay.
Okay. Okay.
Excellent. Good thing
Okay.
for me to look for.
Yep.
So I'm just going to take a quick pause here and tell a funny story. I do not take care of my skin. So I went with one of my besties, Jessica. I don't know if you remember my friend Jeannie
Sure.
from
Yes.
McAllister. Yeah. So she took me to a spa and we went and got facials. And the woman was like, "What in the hell are you doing?" I was like, "I'm doing nothing." So she literally then creates like a program for me. And it was like, step 1, cleanse. Like, and then step 2 was like moisturize. She was like, "I can't give this woman more than 2 steps." I'm still not doing either one of them, but it was, I appreciate it. And so to this day, Jeannie will be like, "Dude, it's step 1. You got to just cleanse your face, like do it." So now that I'm listening to you, I'm like, okay, I really need to up my sunscreen. I got to get a retinol. I need to get some vitamin C, and I also need to get niacinamide. Okay, so I've got a lot of things I'm going to need
But
to do.
I'll simplify it at the end because I'm with you. I mean, I can't do 10 steps. Let's be honest.
Oh my God.
When we go through all this, I'll kind of tell you, like, how do we incorporate this?
Thank you. That would be helpful.
That would be so. Yeah, we need like a.
I'm going to add to Amy's funny story. You know what my regimen is? Water.
There you go.
Oh, hey,
That's great. It's gentle.
It doesn't give me a rash.
It doesn't give you a rash. Exactly. So
No, that's not true. I do have a moisturizer, and my moisturizer contains the next thing we want to talk about, which is hyaluronic acid. Gynecologists are big on the hyaluronic acid.
we
yeah.
love it for the vag.
Yeah.
I did not know this. See, you are
Oh, it's great in the vagina.
Okay, you guys, this is so interesting. Well, you already know this, but it is a material that lubricates our joints.
Oh,
It's this nice
so it's good everywhere.
viscous gel-like material. And so when, of course, on the skin, it's going to do wonders. It binds water like crazy. And so when it's in the skin, it's going to attract water and it's going to help you hold on to it. So again, very good evidence in studies that it helps, especially with 2 things, hydration and elasticity. So the bounce back of your skin. So,
And that's exactly why we stick it in the vagina.
Yeah.
I mean, look at science. It comes around.
I had no idea it was from the joints. Like, that's so cool. And we talk about it in the vagina as a moisturizer, not as a lubricant with intercourse to
Yeah.
use with sexual activity, but as a moisturizer. Like, you have to moisturize your vagina, just like we need to moisturize. Well, some of us need to moisturize our face.
All of our skin gets drier
Yeah.
during the perimenopause.
Well,
it just does.
Hyaluronic acid, it is a magic worker for moisturizing. So again, it's in a lot of lotions and moisturizers out there. So that would be the ingredient to look for. Highly recommend it in your moisturizer.
Is there a certain percentage? Like, does it come as like a 1%, 2%, or is it just kind of like,
It's more just here it is.
here it
Yeah.
is? Okay.
Here
got
it is. And just a quick PSA. The moisturizer with hyaluronic acid you're going to put on your face is different from the one you will put in your vagina.
Yes. Don't use your facial hyaluronic acid in your vagina. Please don't.
No.
Don't do that.
No. Those 2 systems need different associated ingredients.
Yes. That would be fun. Don't do it.
Don't do it.
I mean, you could if you want to see what happens to a spicy vagina.
Right.
But don't do it.
Nobody wants the spicy vagina.
No, no. Woo.
But there are great hyaluronic acid moisturizers for vaginal tissues. They come in the pharmacy. You can buy them online. There's lots of them. Just pick the one you're going to use
And then stick with it. That's all.
and
Yeah,
stick with it.
exactly. Whichever one you're actually going to use. That's the one you want to do. Yeah, for
Yeah.
sure.
Same with sunscreen. See, we're overlapping a lot. Pick the one you're going to use.
I tell my patients there's a very popular brand of hyaluronic acid suppository online that comes from the Nordic countries and has like pollens and herbs in it. And I think it's a great product. It works great. But so does the one that's in the pharmacy aisle.
Right.
So pick the one you will continue to use. It's not to put down that fancy one. It's just, it's the hyaluronic acid is the thing doing the hard lifting.
Right. That's the active ingredient. Right.
That's
Mhm.
what I tell people for prenatal vitamins.
Yeah.
Get the one from Costco. It's got all the stuff you need. Why are you going to Whole Foods for that? Like, unless you want to, but you're breaking the bank for like no reason, So, yeah. Okay. So, are you getting a lot of questions about the estrogens on the face right now? I'm sorry.
So are we, as you know, since we did a whole podcast on it.
You guys did such a great review of the topical estrogen for the face. So this is a newer trend, I would say, in that people are able to get these compounded topical estrogen face creams with the idea that it's going to do what estrogen does, which is increase our collagen and get that elasticity back and decrease our wrinkles and hydration and everything. And you guys did review this. But I mean, the bottom line or the take home point that I gleaned, but you can correct me if I'm wrong, is there's really a lack of robust studies with a good
Yeah.
number of sample size or subjects involved to really extrapolate safety and efficacy.
Yep.
And my other concern would be these are compounded medications. Compounded medications are when a medicine is made by a pharmacist, usually in a vehicle or maybe other ingredients too. But that's not FDA regulated. So it doesn't have the same strict safety and efficacy guidelines. Not to say compounded medicines aren't great. We use a lot of them in dermatology. But my concern is just with topical estrogen, we don't know absorption. A lot of the studies that you pointed out too, they've ended around 3 months. But we know that people that are probably going to be using anti-aging products in this way are going to be using them for years. So what is the absorption? Are we going to be concerned about unopposed estrogen?
We are.
Yeah.
I have two other skin concerns with it. So what is one thing that estrogen does that we really don't like that happens to our skin from it?
Melasma.
Yes.
Can you explain melasma to people? Because not everybody knows what that is.
Well, they used to call it in our old textbooks the mask of pregnancy. So
Oh, yes.
the darkening that can happen in the facial skin, usually like over the cheekbones, upper lip area, forehead. And they correlated with pregnancy because estrogen levels are up, and that's when it would be prominent.
Yeah.
But you do not have to be pregnant to get melasma. You might
No.
be female. And even some males will get melasma too. So, but it is very strongly correlated with estrogen. And
Mhm.
so, yeah, I mean, if we're putting topical estrogen on our face, are we going to be inducing some melasma?
Now we've got another problem.
Right. Other concern too is estrogen can increase blood flow, capillaries, capillary production in the skin. And so, do we want potentially more redness?
And both of those concerns, which are so important, cannot be assessed in a 3-month study.
Exactly.
Those
Right.
build
Yeah.
up over time.
This would be over time. Yep.
And I don't think there's any evidence that says we can't get the results we're looking for with these other products that we've talked about. And people are like, I'm going to put estrogen on my face and everything's going to look great. I'm like, well, you might be able to get similar results with things that are more researched, better evidence, safer. I mean, I love estrogen. Do not
Yeah.
get me wrong. I think it's just
We're
fabulous.
big fans.
Big
Yeah.
fans, but I'm not a super big fan of like what we're doing on our face because the amount you're slathering on, how much you're absorbing. Are we going to get melasma? All of a sudden, you've got little capillaries all over your face. You're like, well, this isn't the way this was supposed to go.
Maybe we're going to have some great studies that come out. I don't know. But I
Yeah.
say for now, I think the jury's still out.
Yeah.
Excellent.
And then phytoestrogens are basically plant-based things that basically, you're going to explain it better, bind in a similar way that estrogen does.
In theory.
Basically, they're going to have similar effects of estrogen on the skin. From studies that I have looked at with phytoestrogens, the evidence is pretty weak.
I think that's probably down to two things. So it depends on if your phytoestrogens have been activated or not, because the way they come in a soybean,
Mm-hmm.
we can't convert them, most of us. So it's actually not binding to
Soybeans,
anything.
you're not gonna, right.
Yeah. If they are activated, even then, they're so much weaker than an estrogen. But if you pile enough of it on there, I don't know what that's going to do or we really haven't studied how they absorb topically. We don't know.
Right.
At least with estrogen, we know it absorbs topically. We use it topically in the vagina all the time. We put patches on our skin because estrogen goes through the skin
Right.
like a treat.
Right.
So I don't even know why you would use something that we have almost no data on.
Back to the point, well, we do have evidence on a lot of other things. So why not just go more that direction then?
Right. I mean, if you're going to
Yeah.
spend money,
Right.
Right.
like, I like value. So I want to make sure that I'm getting what I'm paying for. I don't want to just, light up $100 bill in the backyard and be like, let's see what happens.
Right.
Like, why would I waste money on something when I don't know it's going to work?
So let's talk a little bit about oral collagen, but I think there are a lot of people who are using different versions of collagens
Right.
to deal with skin, hair, nails. I think the most prominent one is probably biotin.
Yep. And we'll start with oral collagen. It does have to be kind of broken down or hydrolyzed. So
Okay.
the big study that I looked at was a big systematic review meta analysis. It did show that it can help with two things. Same thing that hyaluronic acid helps with, hydration and elasticity.
Mhm.
My issues with it are a couple. So it is not FDA approved. It's a dietary supplement. So this doesn't really go through, safety and efficacy testing. You don't always know what you're getting. I mean, if you go online and look under Amazon for hydrolyzed collagen, you're going to come up with a whole lot of products. And
Right.
it can be very overwhelming. Like, well, which one should I get? Should I get bovine? Should I get porcine? Should I get marine based collagen? I mean, there's so many, and some of them are mixed, which also has some concern of allergenicity or allergens because
Mm.
there could be some people that have shellfish allergies. And
Mhm.
even if it doesn't say that there is marine or fish based collagen in some of these, there could be.
Sounds like not a great option for vegetarians either.
Exactly. Right. Because these are all, yes. Yeah.
Right. Vegetarian or vegan. No, thank you.
Right. So, and it did seem, at least from these studies, it takes a while for you to see results with it. So we're talking months and months, but
So you might as well just use hyaluronic acid.
at least there's, more safety with that one, I would say. And there is some moderate efficacy results with studies. So,
Yeah. And I think the other thing, you sort of brought this up, is that you have to look at everything that's in there, because often
Yeah.
they're, collagen and these 5 herbs that are going to be anti-inflammatory or antioxidant. And we've recently seen, so speaking of biotin specifically, we've recently seen actually several case studies in the medical literature of a very large brand for hair, skin and nails causing liver failure,
right,
probably from the added curcumin that's in it. So, hey, everybody, turmeric's not necessarily good for you.
right.
Turns out turmeric, when you eat it from the root, we don't really process that. We sort of are giving ourselves yellow poo, and that's okay.
Yeah,
It tastes nice.
Oh
But
my
if
God.
you actually activate the curcumin and the other compounds in that turmeric, it's not so good for our liver.
right.
I mean, this is where my laziness just really saves me because I'm
Yeah.
like, oh, I never took that product. I thought about it many times, but see,
It comes back to, this isn't FDA regulated. So we don't, can be a lot of product in there.
And I've actually heard from one patient who swears by this product. She's like, well, it hasn't happened to me. I'm like, you just didn't get that batch. Because nobody's looking how one batch to the next,
right.
what's in it, how active it is, what it could do. You have to know that you're taking a risk.
Yeah. There's when something isn't FDA approved, and we've talked about this so many times, it is not consistent across batches.
Right.
So I will tell a very short tale of when I decided to take Armor thyroid for my thyroid, which is like desiccated pig thyroid.
Do
And
you have the Creutzfeldt Jakob yet?
well, you know,
Sorry. For those who don't know, that's a prion disease, and there's some concern that some of
thank
the
you.
neural tissue in armor thyroid could transmit that.
Great. So maybe my brain fog is not from perimenopause. Maybe it's mad cow. So
Yeah, well,
good.
Right.
there you go.
Okay. Good. Great. So I took Armor thyroid. We were trying different things. My thyroid was working, blah, blah, blah. And I was actually doing really well on it until I got a terrible batch. And
Uh-huh.
all of a sudden I was like, I can't get out of bed. Something's totally wrong with me. And we checked my thyroid and basically I was getting nothing. And I was like, well,
Yeah.
that's the end of not using like FDA approved and regulated products.
This is also a great story to represent that we as physicians sometimes make this mistake too, because we're looking for a solution and we
Yes.
want something that's going to work. And somebody has said this is going to work better or it does this better. And there's no shame in it. You want to try the things that are going to work. And, even we fall into that trap. Absolutely 100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Speaking of falling into a trap, Amy, you have some show and tell for us tonight, don't
I
you?
do.
Yes. Oh,
La, la, la.
So, for those of you on
Here,
podcast only, Amy is wearing a very Iron Man esque mask right now. that apparently is going to shine a red light on her skin.
It is. Let me turn it on. It's so good. It's so good.
There
Oh, it's bright red.
How do I look?
Have your kids walked in and freaked out when they've seen it?
Yeah.
Yes, totally. So I was given a red light therapy mask for Christmas this year from my teen daughter. And she said to me, well, maybe this will help. I was like, thank you. Thank you, you horrible, horrible child. So yes, I have this mask.
One of those gifts where she's like, that maybe I can use it a little bit too.
Oh,
Oh, yeah,
totally.
totally.
Right.
Yeah. So, and there is so much about red light therapy right
Well,
now.
it cures everything now,
It
right?
does.
I mean, it does. I'm like, this is like the wonder treatment. We should all just, our houses should just have infrared and red lights.
Everywhere.
This is what we think if we look at any sort of media.
Right. Totally.
And trust me, there are plenty of red light products for the vagina as well.
Yep. So I barely used this thing and I'm feeling guilty about it. Should I feel bad that I haven't been using it or is it bullshit?
Okay. So, well, let's start with actually red light therapy has been used in dermatology practices for years. There is good evidence that it's doing things that we want. So it decreases inflammation. It does help with photoaging and wrinkles, tamps down redness. So these are all things it can do. These are usually devices that are more in an office, a medical treatment. So as you have alluded to, there has been a huge uptick in over-the-counter, new to market masks, et cetera, et cetera. So the good news is they are considered generally safe. Right now, there's not a lot of studies with adequate patient numbers or subject numbers to really give us a sense of how clinically efficacious are they. A lot of the studies are sponsored by the company, so there's some bias. So this is where we're a little bit in the weeds. I'm hoping maybe there's going to be some more better studies that come out. But I mean, the first thing, do no harm. It does look like they are generally considered safe.
So we're not giving ourselves skin cancer with these things.
We are not. No.
I'm not going to make things worse by
Right.
using it. Okay.
I would be patient. So it does seem that you really have to commit to doing it several times a week, 20 to 30 minutes. And it's probably going to take about 3 or 4 months to kind of see effect.
So the 3-minute timer on this is not really what's no. Okay. So I need to up my game on this bad girl. Okay.
And are there differences between the lights that are used in the office and the lights that are in these masks and
Stronger.
other products?
Right.
They're stronger. Okay.
Yeah.
So again, when taken to the home setting, it may not work as
Right.
well.
Or you're just going to have to be doing it longer to see results
Okay.
too. Or,
Okay.
Fair.
you know,
Fair.
So if your office ever needs to is ever upgrading their red lights, let me know. I'll fly out and pick one up.
there we go.
So now we get into the good stuff.
Yes.
If you had to pick 2 to 3 things
Yeah.
that we should all be using besides sunscreen, you don't get to throw that one in there because we all know we have to use sunscreen.
Yeah.
What's number 1? What's number 2? What's number 3?
So yes, number 1 for me, I'd say vitamin C.
Okay.
And then hyaluronic acid, which would be in my moisturizer.
Okay.
Those would be really the top 2 things and then third would be the retinol.
Okay. Vitamin C, hyaluronic acid, retinol. How do I do this? So, because let's say I've got all of these products, right? Step 1, cleanse.
Right.
So I've cleansed my face and I'm assuming I do something different in the morning than I do at night. So let's say I'm in the morning and I'm going to do sunscreen, a moisturizer, which probably has the hyaluronic acid like mixed in with it. And then we want to do the vitamin C.
Right. So let me give you the breakdown. In the morning, wash your face, gentle cleanser, pat it dry. Then you're going to put your vitamin C on. It's usually kind of a lighter serum or even a liquid base. And then I put my moisturizer on, ideally something that has the hyaluronic acid, and then I put my sunscreen on.
Okay.
Oh, sunscreen is last.
And in the evening, wash the face, then pat dry, then retinol, and then the moisturizer again with the hyaluronic acid.
All right. This is a
Okay.
lot for me, I have to admit.
Okay. Yeah. I mean,
I'm kind of a water in the shower, throw on some lotion kind of gal. And I'll be honest, I'm really bad about the sunscreen, but I get away with it because I live in Seattle. And
You're not getting a lot of sun damage.
I'm
Yeah.
not getting a lot of sun. And, I work at a desk.
Yeah, you're inside. So yeah, I mean, it all depends on what do you want to do.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
don't have to make it complicated. I think that regimens that have 5 steps and there's toners and all this stuff, I just think that it gets too complicated. And our skin probably is getting too irritated with all that too.
Yeah. Talk
Yeah.
about a rash.
Yes.
Toner. I was a teenager. I'm like, why are there red bumps everywhere?
Febreze. Oh yeah, those were just tearing skin apart.
But remember, this was the late 70s, early 80s. Toners were all the rage.
Yep.
I didn't even have acne and I had a toner because it was going to prevent the acne I never got.
Eczema like skin, and then we're just putting alcohol on your skin.
Yeah.
Oh my God.
Oh,
So I could still feel that rash.
Oh God. So if I'm going to add in the niacinamide, when do I do that?
you could definitely find a product that's got the hyaluronic acid and niacinamide.
Ooh.
So then
Okay.
easy. So then that's gonna be your moisturizer.
Oh, I
Okay.
like this.
Nice.
I like
Okay.
this. I have some shopping to do.
I did,
I know.
but I will say I'm a fan of a little exfoliating once or twice a week. So I will sometimes use like an alpha or beta hydroxy acid like cleanser once or twice, a week, and it just gets dead skin cells off and
We're
brightens.
not talking the naked Korean lady spa where they take 7 layers of skin off,
No.
right?
No,
Okay. Tried that once too.
Oh God. Whew, like a
Red.
baby's bottom coming out there. And then I'm throwing this at you now. But what are we doing for under the eyes?
oh yes. Oh, I wish there were like the miracle cream there, but
God help me.
There is on TV.
oh, I know. I'm always so impressed by
I
these
know.
pictures. I have had patients get some of those, and they're like, it lasts for like an hour,
Oh.
Yeah.
and then the effects are gone.
Oh,
So,
great.
Oh, well.
but yes, I mean, don't forget the under eye skin. The one thing is, it is a lot more sensitive. I would really recommend sticking with creams that are basically developed and used for the under eye skin.
Okay.
So, because it's, you're not going to be throwing on your retinol there. It's going to be
Right. Oh God. Don't do that. Nope. You'd like to keep that.
And then last question, because it's a struggle that I have now that I'm menopausal. I actually wear sort of, I call them my nail covers. I wear stick-on gels so my nails don't shred constantly.
I get this all the time. It's like my nails are just peeling, they're just shredding, or I'm getting big ridges. And then I just sit there and I'm like, I don't know what to tell you about that. But
Yeah.
but I say it's a thing. It's related to perimenopause. So it could get better. But what do we say about that? Like, what do we do about it? Like, when do we have to worry about it? How do we treat it? All the things.
Yes. So normal. Something that I feel like we're never told about. But yes, these long ridges in the nails
Mhm.
where they gets all bumpy and you're like, what just happened? It's called onychorexis. It is primarily due to number one, aging, and probably because we're losing hydration in the nail.
Mm.
Oh.
And then another thing that can happen is onychoschisia, which is sort of a splitting of the end of the nail where the end of the nail just kind of peels off. And that's again from basically the nail just getting thinner over time.
Geez.
So yeah, it has to do with the aging process, loss of estrogen, all of that fun stuff.
And I have to say, this was a problem for me when I was young.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I had the most fabulous nails in pregnancy.
Well, yeah.
Just like the hair, right? Was the hair
I
not?
know. The hair, the nails.
Everything was so good. I was so cute. Like I had the pooch, but it was because there was a baby in there. So then it
Yeah.
was cute. Now it's like,
It was socially acceptable to have.
yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So my little poochie I had it before, had it during, had it after,
Yeah.
but it was
So
great during pregnancy.
Do any of those cuticle oils or moisturizers help?
Yes, in a sense, probably the best treatment is to try to moisturize the nails, which I mean, our nails get neglected. And there are products out there that you can buy that are nail conditioners that are specific for the nails. So yes, definitely hydrate them. Sometimes I will say the acrylic and gel nails can dry out our nails.
Oh, they can be awful.
Sort of a double-edged sword, right? Because you're
Yeah.
trying something on so they're not splitting, but then the nail does get dried out.
Yeah. So when my nails first started splitting, I did real gels.
Yeah.
And just the getting them off was
Oh,
so traumatic to my nails. They were worse after. I'm not making a recommendation. I've moved to these are basically stickers.
Yeah, right.
I can peel them off.
And then it's not
yeah.
a pain in the nail. Yeah.
Yeah. But
Um,
they also I always wonder if they're just not breathing or if that's bad for them, but at least, they're not split.
some people ask me, should I be trying to buff my nails more to try to get those ridges out? And it's not really recommended to overly buff because that also thins the nail a little bit more. So
Yeah.
just go easy. And then I do, of course, get asked a lot about biotin um,
Yeah.
as a supplement because I definitely have had patients that come back in. They're like, I took biotin for a few months and my nails are so much better. Or it's funny, they'll start on it for their hair, come in and they'll say, well, my hair's not really better, but my nails are great. They're strong again. Uh, and I mean, there are some studies that show that it can help with it. And we talked a little about biotin before, but a couple other things. If you're taking biotin and you're needing to get your blood drawn, I would definitely tell your doctor that you're on it because it can affect thyroid level tests and some cardiac level tests like troponins. And so I think just to be like open about, hey, I'm on biotin, sometimes it's recommended you stop it a week before some of those tests.
That's a really good point. And I think that brings up another good point about biotin, which is more is not better.
That's right.
It can actually have harm. So you want to stay well within the recommended levels.
And especially with some of the supplements that are out there, they're combining it with so many other things in them. It's not just biotin. There could be like 15 other ingredients that they're putting in as well.
Well, I don't know about you, Amy. I've learned so much.
So much.
I may have to reevaluate my water only
Yeah. I'm going to have
skincare
to.
regimen.
I'm really going to need to. Yeah, I got to just pull it together. I got to get beyond the step 1 cleanse. I'm not really there yet. So I need to get there and then add these other things in. But this has been so fun. Thank you so much for coming on and helping our listeners really know what to focus on because I think it is so overwhelming. And my Facebook feed is just like filled. Clearly it knows that I'm thinking about this.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know, should I buy that product? Maybe I should. I want to look like that, So this has been so helpful. Thank you so much for coming.
Well, thank you for having me.
And remember, you're not crazy. This is really happening.